Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Red Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1995 action comedy titled Bad Boys. Now, Bad Boys runs for 2 hours and 2 minutes long. It is written by it is directed by Michael Bay. It is produced by the dynamic duo of Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer. The score was done by Michael Barry, Jim Mulholland, and Doug Richardson, based on the story by George Gallo. The cinematography was done by Howard Atherton. The score was done by Mark Messina, and the editing was done by Christian Wagner. And the stars of the movie are Martin Lawrence, Will Smith, Tia Leoni, Tcheky Karyo, Joe Pantoliano, Teresa Randall, Marg Helgenberger, and Michael Imperioli. Now, in the 1980s and the 1990s, there have been numerous buddy cop films that were in a long run, but that were in the long run very, very entertaining. Stuff like 48 Hours, Lethal Weapon, Beverly Hills Cop, and more. Sure, they're filled with excitement and intrigue, leaving you fulfilled, but over the years, the tiresome formula has also spawned several rip-offs that were quite cheap. In 1995, Bad Boys was added to this list of cheap knockoffs with a direction that looks too MTV-like and has recycled plots from those action comedies that I have aforementioned. Now, that's not entirely to say that this movie was bad in any way, shape, or form. I was excited. There was a lot of great things going on. The plot of the story is two detectives, Marcus Bennett, played by Martin Lawrence. Did I say Bennett? I meant Burnett, played by Martin Lawrence, and Mike Lowry, played by Will Smith. They are, like the typical odd couple. Marcus, is a devoted family man. He's got a wife, he's got kids, and he also has a hard time getting laid simply because, he's been married to the same woman for the past few years and they just haven't had things going. Whereas Mike Lowry, he's a swinging bachelor. He's also a philanderer. He's kind of a bit of a playboy type, but hey, they're both dedicated detectives. They're dedicated to their job. They're dedicated to their craft. And the story goes like this. Marcus and Michael have, of course, 72 hours to find out the disappearance of mafia laden heroin that has been, secretly stolen. And this heroin, of course, is worth at a profit of close to $100 million. So they have 3 days to look for the culprits who took the the mafia heroin before Internal Affairs decides to take them off the case. And they're more than willing to do this unless Marcus and Michael can ascertain who the culprits were. That's basically generally what the story is. Of course, they're also protecting a witness to the crime. Her name is Julie Mott, and she's played by Tia Leoni. So they're also protecting her as well. But of course, realize that she doesn't want to be just, you know, a person who's like under protection of these two cops. She also seems like she wants to be a part of the action as well, while putting kind of like her life at risk. So that's basically kind of like what the story is. Of course, coming from a Michael Bay movie which is not entirely a bad thing. You'll see a lot of high flying excitement. There's going to be a lot of chases. There's going to be a lot of gunshots. There's going to be a lot of explosions. As you know, as Marcus and Michael are going to be ripping through Miami to catch these villains. Okay, so the movie is definitely going to be flooded with action sequences, and the real reason behind that is to hide the fact that the storyline lacks any credibility to it. Now, I know the director, when you think of a Michael Bay movie, you're going to think, oh god, this movie's going to suck. Well, you want to know something? I'm sick and tired of people continually ostracizing Michael Bay. Okay, he's not really that bad of a director. Sure, he has done quite a lot of flops. This was actually one of his earliest movie directorial jobs. Before then, he was doing commercials. He was shooting, directing videos for commercials, music videos. He was around this area. This time now, he's going into uh, movies now. He has kind of gone up in the ranks. I mean, if he continues to do like music videos and commercials, he's selling himself short. This is actually his first time that he has done a full length uh, movie. And in of course, at this time in 1995, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence also were uh, they were also just starting to break into the movie industry as well after coming off from their TV series. Will Smith, I do believe the Fresh Prince of Bel Air was still on at the time of the making of Bad Boys. Martin Lawrence, he also came off from his TV series Martin. So these two were also just, like breaking into the movie industry. I know Will Smith, he evolved during these period of times. He also took the initiative to doing a lot of great blockbuster films later on, like Independence Day, Men in Black, I, Robot. He also has took the initiative to do much more serious stuff as well. So it was good to see that Will Smith was just trying out for the movie industry, and he's pulled off well. Unfortunately, I wish I could say the same for Martin Lawrence, because unfortunately Martin Lawrence has been stuck in this kind of formulaic movie genre over the years and has not evolved like the way Will Smith did, which is kind of a bit of a disappointment on his part. But these two actually were enjoyable to watch. There was a lot of good chemistry. There was a lot of great camaraderie. Sure, there was a lot of cheap, stereotypical dialect that was used in this movie that is cringeworthy enough, but it was still entertaining. So the director, Michael Bay, thought the audience was only going to watch this movie just to see explosions, bullets, a major body count, and not care in the least for logic and cohesiveness to the story, which is what kind of lacks a lot in this story as well. The inactive moments actually definitely really serve no purposes, and we are left wondering if any of these pieces fit. Sure, the pacing of the story is very fast, but at times it tends to just spin out of control, which is a major weakness. I mean, if you lose control with the action sequences, you definitely lose the story, the script, and Bad Boys sadly falls victim in that area. It's like we're too dependent on the cheap thrills and the loudness and the excitement, and we never really quite care too much for the story, which is different from movies like Beverly Hills Cop and Lethal Weapon. When it came to brainstorming, the writers, Michael Barry, Jim Mulholland, and Doug Richardson, they had the simplistic idea. a drug heist in Miami located in a police safe. Just to have a way to wrap things up like we know what happens to the villains. Yes, like in every action comedy, the villains will always have their comeuppance in the end. Then we have the always odd couple pairing of Marcus Burnett, played by Martin Lawrence, and Michael Lowry, played by Will Smith, who, in spite of their hostilities to one another, definitely have a mutual respect behind it all, and a female witness, played by Leoni, who's quite pivotal in this role, even though she messes up here and there at times. Sure, there's really nothing new to offer here in this movie. It's like a rip-off between Beverly Hills Cop and Miami Vice. But it's the only thing about the movie that saves it from being entirely contrived. Sure, the poor script has very little thought, and it truly brought the movie down quite substantially. It's basically the script that really lacklusters here. I know the sequel, the script actually got a little bit better, but here in the first installment of Bad Boys, I just didn't really was able to sit through the entire script because the script was bad. All I wanted to see was explosions. All I wanted to see was cheap thrills. But I think it was just another one of those style over substance. And that's what really makes this movie not as great as I expected it to be. In one very nonsensical scene, which actually goes on throughout quite a lot of the movie, Marcus and Michael are actually forced to swap identities when they are with the murder witness named Julie Mott, played by Taya Leoni. The comical elements between this whole identity swapping serves really actually no purpose, and it comes to the point of even caring about it at all. I mean, what was the point? Why could they just come up and admit that one is the other? Why did they have to swap identities, swap lifestyles? It just did not add up. In fact, sitcoms like Three's Company had actually managed to pull those kind of identity things off much more better than the way it was delivered here. I will say that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are a likable duo. There's a lot of great chemistry between the two of them that goes beyond the humor factor. It's just that even their dialogue is just rehashed from other movies that it was executed far better here. The supporting players are also victims to the formulaic tripe, like the witty sidekick, the loyal wife, played by Teresa Randall, who seems to play off a very similar character to Darlene Love's character in the Lethal Weapon movies and other movies with detective wives. Didn't really serve much of a purpose except for being a constant bickering wife. The corrupt mastermind, played by Tcheky Karyo, and the always angry superior captain, played by Joe Pantoliano. I mean, the villain in this movie was not really that convincing. In fact, he was kind of wanton, boring, and didn't really get that much screen time. And as for Joe Pantoliano's character, the detective, the superior Captain Howard, he's just another line of the always eternally angry captain who spends a grand portion of this movie yelling at everyone. You know, I'm the captain, you do everything I say kind of bullshit. And that has been done many many times before. There's nothing really new in this movie. I mean, it's become kind of a bit because at this time, at during this period of time, it had started to become tiresome and formulaic, and was starting to lose its spunk. Sure, it was a big thing in the '80s, but by the '90s came along, especially the mid '90s, it was really starting to lose its panache, and here just exemplifies that. And there was a positive thing about this movie. It was energetic and definitely had a lot of style. The cinematography by Howard Atherton, it was very vibrant in color and detail. The score by Mark Mancina complements quite nicely in terms of the chase scenes and the fights. But even the technical traits couldn't really save this film very much, and in the end leaves Bad Boys as being just an average film at most, with lots of details that could have been handled a lot better. If I was to give a score out of 10 for this movie, I would definitely give it a 6. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, so be it. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, don't be rude. Come on now. I don't tolerate rudeness. I come visit your channels and I never say anything bad or negative about anybody's opinions. So please do me a favor and do the same here. And, I'll be back again with another review. So until next time, this is Eric Carrot Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.